A journey into the underground with Adam X. Sonic Room Podcast. Hi, I'm Adam X, and on today's episode, I have British techno legend Luke Slater. I'm a massive fan of his releases since day number one. I caught up with Luke in New York City, and we had a great chat about his career from past to present. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I know this man's record since I first got into techno, and the first one was Lloyd Owes Me a Packet. Who the hell was Lloyd? We'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, back in 1990, when we had Groove Records in Brooklyn, we were getting these anonymous-looking records from the UK quite often. You know, they didn't really have a proper label on them or something you've seen before. And one of them was a label, Jelly Jam Records, and a record came in called Lloyd Owes Me a Packet, the Pounder. Right?
Yep.
And very hard-edged stuff for the time. It was actually almost industrial. I think it may have even sampled Final Cut, some of the drums, maybe. Pull You Not to Stop.
Yeah. I mean, I think all those records on Jelly Jam had a lot of samples on from a lot of records.
Everybody's records did then.
yeah. I can't remember what was on. Final Cut was on that. Yeah. Jeff's Final Cut. Yeah.
But that wasn't the first Jelly Jam record. The first one I got years later was maybe like 1992. Was another one, just a white label, Translucent, maybe.
Translucent was the first one.
Yeah. And that was a little bit more melodic, if I remember, like more Detroit style techno. Not so heavy.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's funny you talk about those records because a lot of people don't know those records, really.
No, I know that.
You know, and this was like the first outing into putting out a record. You know, so what I had at that time was other records. I didn't have any gear, just other records. And then we basically got a chance. I used to work with a guy called Alan Sage, and we all worked in a record shop in Croydon, Collindale. Alan Sage and myself, we all worked in an import shop.
Was that the name of the store, Jelly Jam? Was it the name of it?
No, it wasn't. Jelly Jam was a record store I opened in Brighton after that one closed.
Okay.
Right. But there was no gear. I think Alan had like a SH101 and something like a Tascam 4-track thing. But I had the records. I was DJing already, you know, what was this about? 1990, something like that. So we got a chance to make some records. And for me, it was all about using bits of records that I liked. So if you listen to, the ones you mentioned, Translucent, Lloyd Owes Me a Packet, you know, and Lloyd Owes Me a Packet was just a fun name. Because the whole thing was...
Did he even give you the packet, actually? No.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounded good because there wasn't a... You know, we start... When this was happening, it was almost like we didn't want to buy into the idea that we were quite anti-establishment. So this kind of idea that okay, we're going to go and make a record, and it all has to be a certain way and everything like that. I didn't want that. I didn't want to toe the line on how you're supposed to make a record. But what I did know, and I knew a lot about, was other records. So I knew all, even then, like years and years of playing and loving records. So the idea of sampling then was it was very different from now. So taking a bit of a record then, it was almost like a compliment.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
the person who made the record.
Look at the biggest music of the time that everybody loved, Public Enemy. I mean, it was just full of samples. Hank Shockley, right? I mean, all the great records of those time period were all sample based, you know?
Yeah.
Or even music like, you know, Mars Needs Women. That was a huge radio record. That was a very inspirational record on sample culture.
Yeah, I mean, look at the KLF. You know, they Well, they did get into trouble a bit, actually.
I mean, my brother was the king of it, right? Him and Tom
Your brother knew how to sample, man. You know,
a
like
little too much, a little over the top sometimes.
yeah,
Like,
you know,
there's a little
but it
bit too much
works. It
there.
works. You know, you know, but it was just that. I think it was just that kind of time that's very different from now, where it meant something different to everyone who was doing it. So
there was also DJs that were making, you know, taking parts of tracks that they like and putting them together. It was almost not necessarily making an edit, but it was a DJ culture thing of DJs making music and taking pieces from different records and putting them together to play out, right?
yeah. I mean,
and there wasn't that many people in techno that were making such original stuff that were, you know, I mean, okay, the Detroit stuff was pretty original, but, you know, Carl Craig started doing like the breakbeat stuff and sampling, you know, loops and stuff from punk records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But most of the people, I mean, even like a lot of the Belgian techno stuff, you know, Frank de Wolf, they were all sampling, you know, or they were doing cover versions of things like, you know, like In a Light, Fantasia, copying Sleeper and Metropolis and Clark and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, for where I was at that time, you know, the really early 90s, the biggest problem was that we didn't have any gear. So I knew what I wanted to do, but the gear wasn't there to do it. So the only solution to that was sampling and using a studio. And that's where those records were made. Those records were made in a studio. I can remember just being there with like a bag of records that I played over the weekend, picking out bits. I want to take a little bit from there. I want to take a little bit from there, and the engineer going like, you know, I was pushing things in the red on the desk, and he was like, "No, you can't do that. You can't do that." I said, "No, trust me, man. Just push it a bit, and you're going to get this sound from it." So no. We need to keep everything like really, you know, tidy, and I enjoyed it. You know, it felt like quite a, you know, we were because of the way the rave, the music and the rave scene and the club scene in London panned out. It was happening without anyone in the mainstream knowing. It was all happening underground. So there was this whole world that existed, which I was part of. And it was really obvious you were part of something that absolutely no one knew nothing about. And it felt great. You know, it was like, it was being part of a subculture, essentially. But it was a really important subculture. And when I started DJing in 88, I think, in a club in London, which was attached to Heaven. It was a mixed gay club. There was a lot of day glow stuff going on. There was, you know, I was playing stuff from Chicago, from the States, from Italy. All this music was suddenly happening. What was happening in those clubs was something that had never ever happened before. It had never happened before. And I just happened to be, I was there at that time when it broke. So as soon as that happened to me, I was totally married to what had happened and what was happening.
Were you in the scene when the Summer of Love raves were going on? Did you go to like all these like orbital ring parties in London at this time?
Well, the ones around the M25?
Yeah, like all the ones that my brother would play, like Energy, and then there was Sunrise, and all these crazy events that I would see videos of back then, which was completely inspirational to me, you know.
I didn't really go to them. I did a few of them. I can remember. So they started to happen after I'd been playing in a club. So I remember doing a few of them. You know, you park in a field, and I can remember one where the farmer came and put us in the back of a cart, dragged us across the field with his tractor to the stage, and nobody knew what was going on.
How many people would you say were there? Was it one of these really massive ones?
I mean, it wasn't well organized, but there was a lot of people, and I was pretty shocked actually how many people there were. and the sound system. The sound system was okay for back then, I guess, but that whole that kind of opened my eyes. What happened with raves in England? Because for me, there was a big change in culture between clubs, the acid scene that had been happening in the clubs, and this sudden change to rave culture. Because I think I'm pretty sure, not 100% sure, I'm pretty sure that this whole rave idea started in the UK, and
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how it happened, but it was just there. But for me, the that whole thing that happened with raves in the early days didn't really have the atmosphere of what I've been doing in clubs and how much I liked the concept of a club. There was a really big difference, and it was I was never like 100% comfortable with the way some of those events went. I mean, there was quite a lot of problems
And would you
around
say
them.
the same thing like when there were, I guess I don't even know if there were a lot of warehouse parties in London, but was there a warehouse culture there? I don't really
No, what back
know.
then?
Yeah,
No,
not really.
no. The warehouse thing that didn't really exist. I mean, there was clubs. The clubs were happening, and then you had these raves around the motorway. Well, you had raves everywhere. It wasn't just around the M25.
Right.
It was happening all over.
But even the
There
bigger
was
ones were happening, like up in the north and stuff, like these 10,000 person. I mean, because that's a lot of people for when it was new. I mean, I remember my brother showing me like videos of him playing at Energy in London, and it was like, it must have been 20,000 people there in this abandoned aircraft hangar. You just saw a sea of people going all the way back. It was, we were like, what the hell is going on here? How do we do this here?
yeah,
You know?
yeah. I know. I mean, it's amazing
I mean, we had
how
a
things
really
happen
good
like that.
we had a good warehouse culture here and in LA. It was, I mean, LA is still it's insane.
Mm,
Still doing warehouse parties there.
yeah,
All the big parties that, I'm sure you've played out there,
yeah.
But in Europe there's not so much warehouse parties. I mean, in France it was for a little while. I don't know what's going on there currently, but in Paris a few years back there were quite a lot. I played a bunch.
Oh, there's some good
Yeah,
stuff going on in
yeah.
Paris now.
So
Yeah.
back to the early 90s, when did you get your first equipment to start making original stuff where you weren't sampling anymore? I would say it's probably around the same time it was for me, 91, like N91, early 92, right?
I opened Jelly Jam Records in Brighton, probably about 91, somewhere around there.
So that was a shop that you opened up?
There was a
Oh,
record shop,
okay.
and it
And you
was
owned it. You were the owner. You said you opened it.
I was the owner, and it was designed to be a techno record shop, specifically techno and house. It kind of drifted into jungle and stuff like that back then, because there was a lot of stuff there was a lot of relative music that was in that, and it was pretty mad, actually. It was a mad shop, but I didn't want to, I just didn't want to do it anymore. So the outcome of that was the absolute need not to use other studios to make a record, to do it at home. That was the goal. And and we're talking about, if you have a laptop now, you've got like 1,000 times the amount of equipment that those early records were made on easily. I mean, it's a sampler, drum machine, a few effects, small mixing desk, some Yamaha NS10 speakers.
I mean, my music suffered immensely back then because we started buying hardware and we started making music with 303s and 909s and all the 101 stuff in like 92. But we had to pay for studio time. We had no way to set this stuff up at home. I mean, I would program some of it at home, like the 303s, but we would take it to a bigger studio, and then we would be under pressure because of spending, money on studio time per hour, with engineers, and we'd try to knock out an EP in like an 8-hour session, like it didn't let the music grow and be more natural. Like somebody like Beltram, he had his own studio, so he spent a lot of time honing in his sound and his craft. That's why his early records are quite amazing still, you know?
Yeah. Didn't he have it in his flat?
Yeah, he had it in his mom's house originally in the basement.
Oh, okay.
Then he lived with my brother and he was making music there like he did. I think he did Energy Flash there and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, it was the origins are sort of the punk, especially if you're British, it had that element of punk about it where people could do it themselves, and there was something really gratifying about being able to do these things without you didn't have to be part of some kind of hierarchy, established kind of music system where
It was amazing, right?
anyone who had any kind of talent could get involved, and so that whole process, and that tied in with technology as well, because technology at that time was just progressing kind of at the same pace as what was happening with the huge evolution that was techno house, the clubs, the the raves, the whole this was a mammoth shift in culture, huge. I mean, when I look at it now, I can see it. I was living it back then. You don't when something's happening, you don't really see it right there. You don't stand in the middle of a situation and go, oh yeah, I can see how important this is to everything. But you knew that whatever was happening was really new, and that seemed really, really important.
And just being on an international level back then without internet and knowing what was going on in other countries like in Germany or in Chicago, Detroit, New York, in America, whatever, it wasn't easy. You had to do the research. You had to put your homework in to find out what records were coming out and who the artists were. And, it wasn't, you couldn't, everything was more faceless, like, for years, I never knew what you looked like, like nobody knew what anybody looked like back then.
Nobody did. No, yeah. You didn't really meet people. You didn't meet people who made the records you knew very often. It was pretty rare. But if you like the thing, because I worked in record shops, import shops before I was, well, kind of the same time I was DJing in London, but I've always been into music. So I was seeing these records coming from Germany, Italy, all these different places. And it was all relative to each other, but I was really curious about the rest of the world. And actually, as a British person, I considered myself quite a black sheep of England, because I was never really part of the I don't know, it's not really the club scene in England, but the way the music went in England, I didn't feel part of that.
You never followed the trend, I know. Because the breakbeat thing and the hardcore thing, you never really got into any of that. The drum and bass, you always stayed in your lane with techno and just kind of drove through. And nobody was really, there weren't a lot of people making techno there for a while. It was like really, not a hotbed. Like by 92, 93, all the records were coming from Belgium, Germany, America.
Yeah, but I was totally intrigued by the rest of the world. So when I started Planetary, then came the opportunity to travel and DJ, and that's when I started traveling. When Planetary started, so the first place I played outside of the UK was Eindhoven in the Netherlands, and that was like 1993. So that was the first time I left the UK.
So was that a DJ's party for Clementine?
That was a DJ's party.
Clementine live?
Yes, that's not live, no DJing. But I remember going over because Saskia Sledgers, who owns the label, she had put on some big rave, and there was me. There was, is it Random Access?
Yeah, Random Access.
Acids. What are they called? Acid.
01.
Yeah, the heavy acid guys. We're all in a van. We're all in a van, like trekking to this rave in 1993.
Oh, that's
never
crazy.
Been out of the UK, and it's just this massive rave in Eindhoven. And I thought, oh, okay, this is a bit like what's been going on in the UK, but better. So I thought, this is great. This music is like here. Where else is it going to be? It's got to be everywhere. It's got, so the whole globetrotting thing started from that point, and since that point, since 1993, I've literally been on the road everywhere. And when the pandemic happened, that was the longest stretch since then that I've not traveled nearly every week, man. I mean, I've been, and that's how I always envisioned the music connecting everyone around the world. This was the whole thing that I thought was really important. This was a type of music that it wasn't a fad, it was a cultural shift, it was really important. And everyone around the world, didn't matter what language you spoke, they kind of got what it meant. It spread really, really quickly.
It's amazing that we're here now and we're talking about this now, and the music hasn't changed that much, to be honest with you. It's kind of amazing that techno is just lasted this long with people still passionate, and the younger generation still loves the stuff from the 90s. It's not really that much different, and it just feels like it's almost infinite now, that it's going to keep being like that. Like, people are always going to like this music. It's just timeless stuff, maybe.
Well, I don't think techno. I've never really thought of techno as a kind of a. For me, it's more of something from the soul. So it's something that's kind of intrinsically there inside, rather than being a specific thing in the music. So it doesn't surprise me really that it's still there, because it is, for me, it's so much of an underpinning of everything revolving around electronic music, especially when it, because if you look back, if you look at people like Kraftwerk, who are obviously like massive innovators of electronic music, but for me, they're not a dance band. It's like quite very straight, very German, and it's great. But when those influences were taken and turned into house and techno, that was the important bit, because I've always been into dance music. I've always been into rhythm, and when that was married up with the electronics, for me, that was where it's at. And as you say, like, even now, that should be really, really important. It should be really important.
When you go and you play at these raves, like last night when you played, I mean, the feeling when I'm at this and I'm watching the crowd and the audience is the same feeling I had back in '93. It's amazing. It's just still that same energy. It's still that same energy that just never goes away. It's great. It's just,
I know.
because most things in life, you die pretty quick, but we're still going with it. pretty mind blowing in a sense.
Yeah, I'm not really, I've never been really sort of comfortable with the age thing, I guess. I mean, I'm really thankful that I'm still doing what I'm doing, and I'm really thankful I'm capable of doing what I'm doing. Really thankful for that. I've been very lucky. I work hard, but I've had a lot of luck and experiences along the way.
Your discography speaks volumes. There's no way that you could be pushed out of the scene. You just have a discography that's, more than most.
I'm pretty stubborn.
Probably the top 5 in techno with the discography of people going back and sourcing these records. You have a massive discography. It's impressive.
Well, thank you.
I have most of the records too, by the way.
I know you do.
In the great purge of 2012, I told you, I got rid of a few and I'm regretting. I really need Morganistic on Uriel. Can you repress that? Because it's really expensive.
I did repress it.
You did the Uriel one? The not the double album, the single on Uriel discs.
Oh no, that
This
never
record
got.
sells for a lot of money on Discogs.
Oh
You think
really?
to put this
Oh,
one out
sorry about
because
that.
it was one of the tracks that I never played, and I had to get rid of records, and that one I let it go, and I'm really regretting that. It's a fucking amazing record. Can I listen to it digitally now? I want to put it on the turntable again.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the discography as was speaking. So you wound up on Peacefrog, which I was a label mate of yours for one record back in the very early '90s.
Yeah.
And yeah, you did a lot of stuff on Peacefrog. That was kind of your home base after Jelly Jam.
Yeah, I mean, Peacefrog was. I mean, the way. Yeah, actually, I mean, it was a very crazy time at that particular point. I was doing stuff on DJax. There was another label called GPR.
Yeah.
And then Peacefrog was there. There was basically a lot of stuff coming at me really fast, and I was writing literally every day, but I wasn't writing because I had to do it. I was totally addicted to to get to that point where I could actually produce music in my own space. That was a complete like luxury. It was a door opening. At last I could get to it, man. I mean, I can't explain how special that was, because the opportunity before that was not there. It just wasn't possible. It wasn't possible to keep on hiring studios or anything like that. There was no established sort of system for releasing this music. It just didn't exist. It was too unknown. There was no industry for it. There was records, but they were just going through the same channels that every other record would go through. So there wasn't really this new way of putting, the whole system was very different then.
What was your connection with Peacefrog? How did you like meet Pete? Where did he come out of? I mean, I remember he had a couple records out on his own, but what
Yeah,
made you do?
he did a couple of records. I mean, he just got in touch with me and said, he wanted to do a record, and I thought, yeah, cool, let's do it. And he played me. He did like a 303 record, so I kind of thought, well, he's got something going there. I can't remember how we actually hooked up, but what I really remember the way we used to do it. So the way we used to do it was I'd be writing the records, and it was always Planetary. I'd write them at home, and then I'd ring Pete. I'd say, okay, I got the next single. So he would drive down to me, and I would have them on cassette, and then we would go out in his car, and we would drive around London, and we would just listen to the cassette. And that's how we A&R'd the record, So put it on in his car. I said, what do you think? Do you like that one? He goes, yeah, I like that one. That's okay. Well, this one's really needs to go with this one. This is part of the whole thing. He goes, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do it. And he just wanted to keep on rolling and rolling with Planetary, and I was happy to do it. I like the kind of vibe that was happening with it. And
I mean, Peacefrog is definitely one of the most important labels in techno. Like DJax, not as rich of a catalog or discography, but in the end, he wound up signing a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
Detroit guys, Chicago stuff.
Well, Pete, he's a big jazz man, Pete. He was always into jazz, and so things like Chicago house and techno from Detroit. That was some of the UK artists as well. He was really into anything that had that kind of quality to it. He was really into.
You would definitely want to establish a label and had all those people probably coming like this because you've blown up with those records.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's the great stuff of the '90s.
Yeah, the Planetary stuff. Even then, the Planetary stuff kind of just did kind of do that, and that's really when I started traveling, everything even then was pretty much based around Planetary Assault Systems. And actually, I think the first live show I did as Planetary was like in Tokyo in the Yellow Room, I think it was called. And that was like 1994. So, but you couldn't do so many live shows then because the amount of gear you needed to like try and do anything live was crazy. So yeah, that was that was the first show we did, and we went out to Tokyo and did it. So yeah, Planetary has it's been really important to me, but I see how important it is to everyone else, and that means a lot. That means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing time. I remember the first Planetary Assault, so I used to play the hell out of it, the purple one. It's just the classic, the purple cover Peacefrog one with the sticker on it.
Which one's
Yeah.
it? It's just the first.
Go back to it. It's in Discogs. It's the purple one. It's got like the tones of the like little like kind of like resonant tones in it.
I'll check it
it's
out.
a little acidy. It's got kind of, I think it's almost got an acid bass on the track. Without tweaking it out, right? And then,
I should do my research.
I would say I kind of slept in the time period on some of the stuff you were doing on GPR. Not the first one. I used to play Jolt all the time because it was more techno.
Right.
But I think at the time I was probably looking for harder stuff because that was in the really heavy era. And I went back years later and I got the Yellow Wise Rug. I'm still missing the other one. I need to get the one with you on the cover with the photo that came with the poster. But that stuff's amazing, man. I mean, I know they re-released that stuff on Oscars some years ago. I don't know why I slept on this because I was buying some of the IDM stuff. Like, I don't know, I don't want to call it, I hate that term, IDM, but well, you know, the early Orteca and the Black Dog stuff that was coming out on Warp. And but yeah, for some reason I slept on these two albums, and years later I went back to them. I'm like, this is mind-blowing stuff. I guess you were ahead of yourself there. But there was a third album on GPR that I saw on Discogs that never came out. A 7-playing, in like later, like in '97.
Yeah, I mean, things on that label didn't end so good. So there was a lot of. It was quite messy at the end, put it that way.
Yeah, I heard that he claimed, not on your, I don't know about your stuff, but I've heard for other people that he like signed people in like life-term deals and they couldn't get their rights back for that stuff.
Let's not go there.
Okay, we don't go there.
Let's
yeah,
not
well, it's
go
not your
there.
business anyway, that stuff anyway. But it's unfortunate because a lot of that stuff should be reissued, you know? I mean, if he does have the rights, he should put it back out. You know, there's a lot of great shit on that label.
Yeah. I mean, he did do some good stuff, you know.
So what is the album that you did? I don't know I never heard that before, so I don't know. Is it what is it? The third album, is it also more ambient stuff? What is it?
I can't. My mind is a total blank, Adam.
Well, dig through it and put it back out.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've got stuff from back then that's never released and stuff like that. But you know, I'm pretty picky on what comes out, so. I mean, even around then, you know, that's all the 7th play music. So at that point, I was releasing Planetary, the 7th plane, and I think Luke Slater all at the same time. So that's how much I was writing, you know, because you know, I think I was, you know, I find it really interesting, really, because I think I was watching like a documentary or reading an interview about Studio 54. Right. So back then, a DJ was less of an important job than being a remixer. So if you remixed a track, it was much more of a bigger thing than just being a DJ. You know. And I thought to myself, that's really interesting how, you know, obviously that shifted over the years in different ways. But I mean, it for a start, it allows me to continue my theory that just because everything is so fluid anyway, you should never really get stuck in one way of thinking because things need to keep on moving, man. Things need to keep on changing, even if it trips you up. You know, it keeps it spicy, you know. But when I saw that back then, that doing a remix of a record was that important compared to the DJ, it's actually something that I think is really important. And like writing music and the production of music, I've always, and you know, hand on heart, it's probably the most important thing to me. It's my way of trying to communicate. And whether that's playing the records I make out or hearing other people play them, that is for me, the whole communication thing, you know.
Do you like people remixing your records? I'm not a fan of that, of mine. For me personally, I just like putting my records out and then letting them go on to the next thing.
What you of asking other?
Yeah, like for my own
people?
productions, I don't really ask people to do remixes often. I mean, I did it with the traversable wormhole stuff because CLR licensed it and they wanted to put it out and package it. But normally, if I do something, I'm not like seeking out people to remix a track to put out a remix thing. Do you do that with your stuff? What do you like?
I didn't for many years, but now, I mean, the last thing on Motive Vol we released was a triple pack. So I asked Len Faki, Schlar, Renning
Yeah,
Wise,
I saw that. That's a reassembled,
Oscar
right?
Malero,
Reassembled,
and I did a few as well. Yeah. So you know, I'm definitely, I like working with people that I know and also who are kind of into the same kind of thing. You know, I'm not. You know, there was times back in the days when I was signed to bigger labels that a remix, suddenly the remixes would get launched on you. Like, oh, we're going to get so and so to do a remix and that. And at times they're like, who's that? I don't even know who this person is. Oh no, but it'd be really good because, you know, it's good. This person's happening and stuff. I was never really that comfortable with that idea of marketing something as a remix just because that person happens to be, you know, coming up or in vogue at that point, but it has absolutely no relation to the music you're doing. So now, you know, especially with the label, it's a better feeling.
And I should say, I do like remixes. I don't mind remixes of older stuff. Like somebody, you know, I've taken older tracks from back in the day and reworking them and making them modern. This is cool. Like if I have old tracks that somebody wanted to remix and that I did back in the 90s or early 2000s or whatever, and do that. I just don't like the concept. I find that a lot of people nowadays I got to get a remix, or it's like, maybe you should let the original do its thing first and see how that works. Because you remember, like in the old days, remixes were done because a record was like overplayed. It was a big record, and it was like, the label was like, oh, you know, we want to extend the life of this, the shelf life of it. Let's go get somebody to do the remix. Then everybody's playing the remix. It doesn't work like that anymore. No, like that in years.
No. Well, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah,
because you can have too many. You can definitely have too many remixes. That's for sure.
So in the end of the 90s, it seems like me, you were also getting a little bit tired of the normal techno that was coming out, and you went in a different direction with Mute. And you know, this is around the same time I was like going into my industrial thing, and then you were also going in a different, more alternative direction. And what was in your mind at that time, and what were you?
Well, you know, I'm not. You know, I get bored pretty easily, and I think at the end of the 90s, I'd just done so much. I traveled so much, and I'd made so much music. I think it just got to a point where I just wanted to do something completely different, and just and not worry about it, because actually there was so much pressure coming around that time from a lot of different angles. I wasn't really that comfortable with any of it, anything that was happening. So a complete change was kind of needed, and I think it was good. You know, I stopped Planetary. That had to stop. It's not the first time it stopped, but you know, you can't. I don't think things should just always carry on exactly the same. You know, it's really boring if something just is the same.
And it was really getting monotonous by 99 with the scene. It was like people were not really breaking any ground. I remember you just get stacks of records at the record because out of the shop, and we're getting the distributor records from Integral and fucking Prime and all the distributors, and it'd be like every week this many. And it was just after a while, it's just like everything just sounds the same. You know, it was like, I think everybody else, that's why Electro Clash kind of caught on pretty quick, and Electro itself came back, and like, you know, the minimal techno started to kind of bubble up a bit in the beginning with, you know, like Baby Ford and like the Powell records and stuff like that. But the harder techno was definitely on a decrease at that point. So when you were doing the stuff on Mute, what was, because it was kind of almost like you were like trying to do a one-man band thing going on a little bit, right? A little bit more like,
what do you mean?
Yeah, it was just a little bit more alternative, a little bit more poppy kind of style stuff, right? So
yeah, I mean,
like a new wave approach almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to try out some things, given the opportunity to do them, and it was yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. I mean, I'm actually really pleased with that album that came about from that. But what I really realized is how pissed off the techno fans would be for me doing it. Wow, it was.
I
I
remember.
never saw that coming.
I remember.
I never saw that. I never saw
I
that coming.
respected that you were doing that because it was doing something else, and I felt the same at that point. That's why I was starting to make different types of music at this time.
Yeah, no,
Getting into different stuff.
sometimes you have to. Sometimes doing things like that. I think is really important. You can't just if you just hold on to the one thing that you feel is constantly saving everything, then it that's not the right way to live. You got to be able to flex and try and change things and let things change and let things happen. And I wouldn't be doing Planetary now if I hadn't have done that, because there was no way Planetary could have survived that whole along the line. There was a big break with Planetary. I think like 2007.
Well, you did Co-op Warriors and the yellow one.
That
right?
was like
Peacefrog.
Yeah, that was the last
2002,
ones. 2002. Yeah, that was probably the last ones, and then there was a break. 2008, I restarted it. And it felt really fresh to do that. It was like a sort of a second time around. Everything felt new again. And
I'm assuming you were talking with the remixes, because there was a lot of weird remixes on this stuff on mute. These people that you were talking about, like names that you didn't know, right? Because I remember when they kept putting out 12 inches of all this stuff in the album, and it was also like you said, I didn't know any of the remixes that they were doing at the time. Like,
yeah, I mean, there were some good ones. I mean, I think the best one of anyone who did any remixes from Nova, when I was on Nova Mute, was Andrew Wetherall.
I like the Finlow one, the Silicon.
Oh yeah, that was good as well. There were some good ones, but
yeah, Andrew's one was also good.
Andrew, sadly departed, but he was a top guy, really. Andrew.
Yeah, I loved Andrew. He's a great guy.
Yeah, one of a kind, man. Yeah. So yeah, it's this is part of the whole thing that is music. I mean, you can't live a life in music and just not have to have these experiences, because we're dealing with art here, right? So like if you're a performer, if you're performing, if you're DJing, playing live, and you're making records, then that is the side of it that you love. For me, that's what I love. I love making the records. I love playing. I like performing, man. I love it. I just love everything about it. But you can't. That's not the whole thing. That's not the whole thing. There's tons of stuff that need to be dealt with to make things happen, to try and do things. Like the whole thing that is the music business, and even now, even though the music business is very different now, you can't just isolate yourself in the idea that you can just stick to the few things that is the most beautiful, like the making of music or playing it. There's other stuff that needs to be dealt with, but I think it's the way that it's dealt with and the way you deal with it. That's the learning process, because everyone makes mistakes. There's no clear path. It's like it's quite a mad world.
Well, you were saying before that you've been playing straight through the whole time. Were you playing really a lot in the 2006-2007 period? Well, because you didn't make minimal with Tech House. You weren't making any of that at that time.
No, but
so where the hell were you playing? Because that would seem like that just overruled the world at the time.
I was playing, man. I was I can't remember where I was, but yeah, it was a busy time, strangely, but
I think the struggle was real for a lot of us at that time with the Tech House and the minimal. It was like, poof, it was definitely a difficult time period. But I think in when I moved to Berlin around 2007, I'd say by 2008, the sound started to come up. Berghain, Ben Clark, Detman, pushing more techno in there, people going there. And I think you did the first release on Oscar that you did for them was like 2009 or something, right? Like Temporary Suspension or
Yeah.
the album, and then it was on fire after that. I love the teen decade. I thought it was a great decade for techno.
Well, doing that album on Oscar, that was, I mean, to me, this was just like a follow-up from what I was doing earlier with Planetary. But to a lot of people at that time, this was a very new thing because there hadn't been any, if you like, true techno for quite a few years. So when that album hit on Oscar and what was kind of brewing at that time, it was just right. It felt like everything was starting again, you know. And that's what I'm talking about these periods where it's important that things change. Now and again, it's you know, techno's always there, but things have to go up and down. There has to be dropouts and drop-ins to the whole thing.
But even doing the classic style that you were doing, you still more to it. It was more advanced, and the production, a lot of the production changed just in general, outboard gear, you know, the computers and the sound quality. Everything's just sounded bigger when the next round of this style of techno came back out. You know the dynamics when you play those tracks against something in the '90s, you can tell there's a difference. You know.
Yeah. Well, you know, technology has come a long way.
Yeah.
You know, and systems in clubs have come a long way because back in the 90s, you know, I don't think there was any sub bass really, but you know, there was nothing really happening much between, you know, below 80 hertz.
Yeah, right.
There was nothing really going on.
Even LFO wasn't that deep.
It's not that deep, but at the time it sounded it. But when you play it now, you think, well, no, that's not really low, really, is it? But that's what I mean. You know, the club systems now are amazing. Just the technology in the systems is off the scale. You know, right, you know, down to 0 hertz, right up to the top, and it's beautiful, man. It's you know, there's nothing great about 90s sound system.
No, to tell me about it by hearing it. I need hearing it. I really do, actually. You know, I mean, how's your hearing? Is it good?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Really? Were you wearing hearing protection?
I don't know. Yeah. I think I eat a lot of curries. I think it's in the spices, man.
I don't know. I think I was playing too much on these PV, like rock guitar, like monitor systems having some crazy raves in America in the early 90s and the damage there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Yeah, the sound systems, it's a huge difference. You know, I would definitely not have this hearing loss on today's systems that I have now from back in the day. Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. As far as making music, like I've been like not making a lot of stuff in the last year. I've been busy with other things and life in general. And so I started working again like a week ago, and I'm making stuff. And I don't know how your approach is in the studio, but I'm like, I really feel like sometimes I'm stuck and I want to make something that hasn't been made yet with the 4/4, you know, rhythm structure of techno, you know, the 4 on the floor kicks. And do you find when you're making tracks, you get stuck sometimes that you're trying too much to maybe make something that hasn't been done, or you don't even care and you just make what you want to make and it doesn't matter if it's been done? What's your approach and your way of thinking when you're coming up with new stuff?
Well, I don't really get stuck because if I don't want to write something, then if I don't feel like doing it, I just don't do it.
Well, it's stuck in the sense where you write something and you're not really like, I mean, sometimes I'm making something, I'm like, this is cool. And then I'm like, but is it something new to add to everything that's been going on the last 35 years? Should it be new? Should it just be something to have fun and play out?
Well, it can be what you want it to be, right?
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I put maybe a little too pressure on that. I just want to feel like I want to do something that hasn't been done yet. Or this, can anything be done new with this music and with a 4 to the 4, like that's not been done already, you think?
New is happening all the time. Just, you know, it depends. There's all. I mean, you know, things have changed. Sounds have changed in the music, and things have developed. But you know, you can't invent like you can't reinvent the wheel, man.
I don't
You
know.
know,
But
I
you
mean,
remember like when
it's
Aphex Twin first came out and they're like Tanfex on the didgeridoo and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, I haven't heard anything where I'm like, what the fuck is this? I've never heard something like this before. I've not had that feeling in techno in a long time, where it's something that I was like, this is just mind blowing. Not to say that there's not a lot of great music out. It's just something that really just captured my attention. Like I'm in awe. Like I'm like, what the fuck? Have you had a what the
well,
fuck moment in the last years?
I'm not sure that's really supposed to happen. I
But it
don't.
should. No?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's a revelation of that for everyone at a certain point, but I don't think that's something that should keep happening.
I don't know. In the early '90s, it was always a what the fuck moment because half the stuff that was going on was never done before. You know, it was just like, oh shit, this sounds amazing, or you know, every year there was something
Yeah,
going
but
on.
you know, I mean, people are writing good tracks.
Yeah, of
The
course. That I'm not taking away from the people that do it well.
yeah, people are writing good tracks. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can't with the thing is that technology lends itself to a certain thing, and I've actually talked about this before. This idea that the tech I never want the technology to actually control me. And this is something that can happen really easily now. I mean, it can happen before, but machines are machines. They're just machines. Computers are computers, and they're just computers. They don't have a soul. They don't have a heart. For me, the test has been, how can I use this stuff to get across what I'm actually feeling, what I'm actually trying to put into it, away from what these machines are almost telling me to do. Because every one of those machines has almost its own voice that it can go, there you go. I'm ready for you. Look, I've done it for you. Here you go.
Well, you know,
You
it's all
know?
going to happen soon with the AI. It's going to take over. We're going to be like, is it going to be making
Well,
our own? Is it going to be telling us not to make music? And music sucks. We're making music now.
you gotta, you know, this listen, you know, this is a true thing that you got to listen to your soul, man. You got to listen to yourself, because that's the one thing we have that machines don't. Right? That's no one's ever going to replace that. It's impossible to replace being human. No matter how good the AI is, no matter how good machines come, they're never actually going to replicate what we don't understand ourselves, which is being human. And we carry these kind of conflicting feelings and passions and things that end up in music. They always end up in music, man. And for me, that's always been the goal, to try and interject that into the music I'm writing around the machines. And I think this thing, you know, if you're talking about something like AI, which is it's happening right now, it's happening now. I'm pretty sure now that you could ask. So I don't know offhand the exact program or app or whatever, but I'm sure there's something where you can say, you can put in a techno track, pretty straight one, and it'll spit you back something pretty much like it, you know, that does the trick, right? You know, this when you think about that, you go back 20 years. If I said that to you then, so what do you mean? Like you put a track in a computer and it makes you a track? You know, it'd be like, what?
I know
But
we were just getting CD rewriter machines about 23 years
right,
ago.
yeah, but this is happening now. But it's never, you know. But if if you, in a way, you got about everyone has got to battle that. So they've got to not accept the easy. The struggle is important. The struggle is important. So the struggle against technology, I love technology, but you got to struggle against it as well. You got to keep what's human in your
I'm
music,
kind of a
man.
minimalist when I work. I mean, I'm doing all laptop and Ableton and plugins. I haven't used hardware in over 20 years. I know you still use a lot of hardware, right? When you're making music, or do you ever just actually make tracks without any hardware and just use computer?
I got a big studio, but it's not you know, it's not like I, you know, wire everything up all the time. Things get used at different points, and a lot of the time now I'm quite interested in kind of working on one machine as a kind of a project. So just working with one machine and trying to get into the psyche of that, rather than having, thinking that you need to use a lot of stuff, because I don't think you do. And especially now, because the machines now can do a lot, so there's no excuses. But and like if you're young and you're just starting to write a track, and you're getting all these sample packs thrown at you, and you're basically getting machines that have already pretty much written a track, and you could put that together in 5 minutes, and it will do the trick. But that's not going to work for you, right? It's not. If you're really serious about it, it's not going to cut it down the line, because you're not going to get away with that for long. You got to put something else in there.
Sonic Room Podcast.